like okay. Um, and
But
then
like, there's no Christopher Lee Dracula kind of anything today. There's no Hammer type horror out there.
no,
Because a
although
lot.
strangely the Hammer brand is back. Like now, like Woman in Black, and they've been making movies again. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Which I honestly enjoyed the first Woman in Black, not so
hmm
much the sequel, but I thought the first one with Daniel Radcliffe, I actually enjoyed it. I thought that was a good film.
yeah.
It
Like
had,
I love anything in a haunted house. It's just
yeah,
cool.
Yeah. And to me, like a period piece, like a period horror
hmm
movie, it just seems so much creepier without any modern technology. That's everything just seems creepy. And
Yeah, because
the
like
fact that it was set back then and in that old creepy house that's just
mhm.
isolated. And it was pretty straight up horror. I thought it would be a lot more lighthearted with Harry Potter in it when I started watching it. It was surprisingly dark and kind of scary.
Yeah, something just like getting rid of technology, getting rid of cell phones and stuff because like just the idea of cell phones existing ruined so many horror films because you could always call and then
Right.
have to like come up with a reason why they can't call. It's like there's so many movies where they say I got no signal. Like it's everywhere because like you can't because otherwise they'd be able to call for help. So you
Yeah,
gotta
it's a safety net that they just didn't have 100 years ago.
yeah.
And I think that's why The Witch was successful with me too, because The Witch was set back in like what the 17th century or so, whenever
the
the Witch
Puritan
is
days.
set. Yeah, back in the Puritan early America days where they had literally nothing, no lifeline to any kind of society. And the horror is compounded that much more when you can't get away and there's no possible escape. They're a hundred
Yeah.
miles from any kind of town. There wasn't landlines even. There was nothing.
Mm-hmm. And I think
Yeah,
with
I'm working on a. Oh, go ahead.
no, you go ahead, James.
Oh, okay. I was just thinking of like if you were to take an existing movie and then gave them cell phones, like what would be the outcome? So I've been thinking of doing a video at some point, which it's only in like the brainstorming stage. It's like it takes some more time. I need to watch like a bunch of movies um, but the idea would be like here, take a movie that exists and think of it like, well, what would happen if they had cell phones in that movie? They'd be able to get out of pretty much anything, but not just the ability to call. Like think about like, GPS, um, uh, basically like anything you can do on a phone.
Dr.
Take it.
Frankenstein taking selfies with the monster's corpse and posting them
Yeah.
on Twitter.
Well, yeah, well, really,
Hashtag it's alive.
any
Yeah.
of the slasher movies like Halloween, any of those would have been solved. The movie would be over in 15 minutes if somebody had a cell phone.
Yeah.
The first person you find dead, 911. Oh my God. You got to
Yeah.
get to this address. I mean, Michael Myers aren't that fast. I mean, you could run away from them while talking on the cell phone. Yeah, he's walking slowly behind me right now.
Yeah.
I'm about 20 feet in front of him. I'm on Maple Street,
Uh-huh.
Is that
and then movie over.
and maybe that's kind of like why, like, even when you do something new, kind of like the movie It Follows, where
hmm
it's set in modern day, but this thing only you can see it. There's it I'm trying to explain it right, but that to me that movie worked, even though it was set in modern day. People were using cell phones, but just the way that they explained how this thing kills and stalks you, I think was done right in a modern day where, like Chief said, he's right behind me, he's coming. This thing, it doesn't matter if he's right behind you. Once he catches you, you're dead no matter what.
Hmm. Was that movie modern days? I mean, I don't think it changes what you're saying, but
Yeah, I
like I
believe so.
It was kind of
yeah.
a weird, kind of vague time
Oh,
period though, because they still had old stuff like old
True,
TVs.
true.
yeah, like they had that tablet thing or whatever that like
Yeah, like clear.
so
You could like see through it or something like that.
yeah, that was weird. It was like you couldn't really tell when it was from because I assumed it was the 80s just because it had like the 80s style music and like
Yeah,
the
And their clothes were kind of 80s, 70s
maybe it
era,
was
kind of
'80s.
kind of
Maybe it
late
was.
70s, early 80s.
but
Wait,
they did have that cell phone type thing. So it must have been present day.
wait.
Yeah, they mentioned modern day things, but then all like their TV was like a big old tube TV from like the 70s or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the furniture was all old style and like shag carpeting and stuff. It was weird. It was like multi-era type movie.
Yeah, that's weird. I'd have to see that again.
It was. I
Yeah.
thought it was a pretty good movie. As far as
Hmm.
it was kind of found footage, but kind of not. And it was kind of in that, and it had these like weird like panning shots of like the street and stuff. And I thought it was for a modern movie and kind of set, it was kind of an original idea. The fact that you couldn't see it, like nobody else could see
Yeah.
it, and you could see it, and yeah, like Spin said, like it didn't matter. It'd get you in the middle of a crowd and you just fall down dead or
Hmm.
whatever would happen to you. It didn't care.
Yeah. It made it
So,
like really like a scary version of Where's Waldo. Like look out the crowd and like you see the one thing coming at you, and yeah, that was pretty scary.
yeah, who's the weirdo in the
And that's
crowd?
what I found like when they would do like crowd shots. I'm looking to see which one of these people in this
Hmm.
crowd shot is walking.
Hmm.
You know, like when she was on the college campus and they would show a bunch of kids on the college campus. I'm like, which one of those is just walking really slowly?
Yeah.
Oh,
That played with the mind, and I think that's what is good with a horror film is if it plays with your mind a bit, and
Hmm.
you are actively looking to see what's going on instead of them just saying, oh, here you go, here it is, be afraid, or oh, here's a Pop-Tart jumping out of a toaster for a jump scare.
Yeah, like you
well,
just want to go out into like a desert or somewhere where you could see it from miles away. It's like
yeah,
the scariest thing in that movie is walls. Like anytime when they're in a closed space, it's like, oh crap, it could come out of like anything.
Yeah.
yeah, and like we were saying, they effectively took away the usefulness of communication with anybody. There was
Hmm.
no matter you could call anybody, but who's going to believe you?
Yeah.
There's an invisible man trying to kill me. Nobody's coming for that.
Uh-huh.
And so I mean, you're kind of screwed either way. And so yeah, that was an effective thing, I thought. And a modern day horror where they've managed to make something scary, even though you do have all this communication and ways to communicate with the outside world. Because yeah, it didn't matter. It was going to get you one way or the other, and it just
Yeah.
keeps coming. It doesn't sleep. It's always walking at you.
Hmm. So you always got to watch your back the whole time.
With of course with you reviewed so many movies with Monster Madness over the years, is there a certain period of horror that is your favorite throughout the time, throughout the history of film?
Yeah, I mean it's really the golden age. It's the Universal monsters, plus Jekyll and Hyde, King Kong, like any of the others that came out in the 30s and 40s. Um, but yeah, I pretty much covered all those. Um, I mean, there's always something new to talk about with
Always.
them all the time. Um, but like I revisit them every Halloween. I always try to like watch one or two of them every year, 'cause it doesn't feel like Halloween until you see one of those.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, Spenguli
But
just ran the original Frankenstein last week, I think.
oh yeah, and then the Wolfman. Yeah, Sven Gulli is like the last horror host that I know of who's still showing all those classics, and it's great that they got the Universal license, so they're showing the Universal movies because most networks, no matter how many horror marathons you see, you don't see the Universal movies come up that often.
Yeah, rarely. And usually it's just Frankenstein. Like you hardly ever see Dracula or the Wolfman or any of the other ones. You
Yeah.
might catch Frankenstein once in a while on something.
Hmm. Yeah, like even Turner Classic Movies, like they run the same ones every year. I mean, I love that channel. I love, the commercial free and everything.
Right.
But, it's like it's a lot of like I don't know, they'll play like a lot of public domain ones like Carnival of Souls and everything. I mean, they'll show great versions of it. They'll show it at, like in HD and it's awesome. Um, and then AMC is always playing like this, every like Halloween or Friday the 13th sequel, and they're like censored. There's commercials, and
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
you
So
know,
they're annoying to watch in that format.
Yeah.
yeah.
Last night I think my son was watching Mike and Ryan when their video for Cuphead, and I guess they had mentioned Ryan had mentioned like the giant claw, and my son goes, Dad, what's the giant claw? I'm like, do you want to watch the movie? So my son's like, oh, he's waiting to get home from school so we can watch the giant claw. Because my son loves the giant monster movies. Those are his. He went to the theater with me and saw Shin Godzilla, which he absolutely loved. He loves all the Godzilla, the King Kongs, the Mothras. So and those I think, and not originally supposed to be scary, and then of course as we know, Godzilla with the drop kick and everything stopped being scary. But those are kind of his bread and butter. Is he loves those giant horror monster films, and I don't think we've been getting enough of those as of late. And I think lately,
do you think every kid starts out with those? Like everybody's parents that you want to watch horror, they start you out with like the Godzilla because it's kind of tame, really, in the sense of not really a horror. It's a giant monster movie, but it's not like terrifying. I mean, that's what my mom started showing me when I was a little kid, and like I started to become aware of like Halloween and scary shit like that. My mom would go, okay, well, Godzilla's on. You want to Godzilla? So I mean, but like when I was real small, like stuff like The Exorcist, of course, she's not going to show me that. But kind of my breaking into horror, I remember, was Godzilla. That was like one of the first monster movies I ever watched.
Yeah, me too.
Same here. It seems like nowadays we're getting a lot more of the the gory type of horror, the Saws, which I'm not downplaying it. I love the Saw series just for what it is. But Saw, Hostel, those type of films, it seems like they're relying more on the shock and awe of blood and guts than the ambiance of a scene or the location that it's shot in. Do you feel that way, or do you think it's kind of there's something different to it?
It just depends what it is. Saw had its great moments and its bad moments.
Oh yeah.
But like at its great moments, it was really awesome. Like it really had a lot of I don't know, it was just like a lot more. There's a lot more to it than I would have thought. I thought they were just like torture movies, but then you see them and they're actually like, wow, like there's like a lot of thought going into this. But I think the Halloween season in general seems that way. Like there's a reliance on gore with everything, with decorations, which, you go into a Halloween store and there's lots of gory stuff, but I'm like, I don't know, when I think of Halloween, I think more like just classic stuff. I think of witches and black cats. I'm really
yeah. I did too, and I always remember like the music room in my elementary school that my teacher would put up like the skeleton and like the Halloween scene of like a witch in a cauldron and all the cheap Halloween decorations. That's kind of what I think of at Halloween.
Yeah, actually,
a murderer.
Yeah, like I like haunted houses. I like going to and obviously they're not gonna. If you go into a haunted house, obviously they're going to go for like really scary stuff and like a lot of gore. But my favorite haunted house, actually, I was just telling Mike this, is that my favorite one is still the Haunted Mansion in Disney because
I love it.
Yeah, I just love the atmosphere of it. I love the effects, and there isn't really a lot of atmosphere haunted houses. It's more about things jumping out and scaring you.
Right.
And I'm fine with that, but it's I wish there also existed these like more that are like the Haunted Mansion.
They really built up the outside queue to that over the last couple of years as well, because my in-laws live 30 minutes from the main gate of Disney World, so I'm kind of lucky. I get to go down, pay no room and board, and just go to Disney. And the queue used to be just the covered guardrail, and you go right into the house.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like this whole walk around with like interactive walls and the hearse and everything like that, just before you actually get into the house. It's pretty interesting, but I that's one of my favorite rides, and I prefer to ride it at night too, when the lines are shorter and it kind of feels like you are going into the haunted house at night.
Yeah.
During the day, it's kind of like, I'm going to a house, but at night it just feels so much better walking in there and just it's dark.
Yeah.
I've only been to it once, and it was during the day, but it was still pretty cool. And Disney puts so much money into that park, and everything's just perfect when you go in there. Everything is perfect and works, and all the illusions work, and it's a really cool thing to do. But it's Spencer, they changed it. I don't know what it's like now.
Huh. I was there a few years ago, actually. I went in it during the day, the last time one, and I don't remember because I brought my daughter, and I don't remember if I was just distracted or whatever, but I don't really remember what it looked like last time, like if it was different at all.
I think it splits off. So there's like two ways you can go. You can do the normal way where you just go right to the house, and then there's like the longer way around to get into the house, which is that little interactive queue. And then of course I like to just look because they had the gravestone for Mr. Toad from Wind in the Willows.